Last bit of field work today. Brought Dragonfly Hiker with me to finish up the job. So we're just checking on some of the Centennial caches. So these are front country traditional caches. Just more of an introduction for people there. People who do all five. You can get yourself one of those generic Parks Canada coins. And then if you feel a little bit more adventurous, you can head out to the backcountry to do our backcountry challenge. So we're just going to go and check out Jim Charles. Alright, so here we are at Jim Charles Point. And if you've seen other videos I've done, this is also the site of the group campsite now. But back in the 1800s, there was a man named Jim Charles that used to live here. Actually, they say the foundation of his cabin was just right down there. And the story goes that he found gold in Kejimkujik and didn't really tell anybody where the gold was. Told there was a little fight with somebody else one late night at his cabin, an accidental death. So he decided to take his gun and light barge canoe and hid for 2 years somewhere else in the southern end of the park until he realized that nobody else was coming for him. So he came back with the rest of his days here at the cabin. But that was in the early mid 1800s. But in the time after that, this area was known as the Kejimkujik Hunting Lodge. Now the group camp shelter stood where the actual lodge was. And the only way people made it out here was to call ahead and show up at Jake's Landing, where we launch our canoes, and to call ahead to say that there's some avid American hunters and outdoorsmen that come out with a boat and ferry them to the point here. Alright, so the biggest question is, why so extreme this year? You know, you got a 32-kilometer bike ride to the backcountry to get 2 of the caches. You got a paddle about 7 kilometers to get one of the other caches, etc., etc. Well, that's just because Keji, for the most part, 80% of the park is in the backcountry. So the 2 experiences that you'll have to do to see anything of the park is to paddle or get into the backcountry. So the series is more about to explore the park, and really, other than the main campground section, really not a lot of people that comes down to the southern section of the park. Alright, let's go over the passport and patch pin with the Kejimkujik Backcountry Challenge. First thing you need to do is get yourself your passport. You can download this from the site, and once you fold it up, you should get something looking like this, and inside you'll get the rules how to play. You'll have last year's backcountry challenge, you'll have this year's backcountry challenge, and also the Centennial or the front country challenge. This is the one that you'll get a little geo token instead. For those who are doing the challenge the first time, basically you'll have 5 squares for your cache. You go to the container, and inside there'll be a punch, and you just punch the appropriate box. Now, if you see this icon here, depending on the series you're doing, this means that you can do these caches with a chirp enabled Garmin. So that's something called the paperless challenge. So you don't necessarily need to carry this around, but a little something extra for those of you with those devices. With traditional GPSs, you carry this with you and you punch as you go. So once you complete a series, you bring this back to the visitor center. Now if you're doing the chirp paperless method, you got to bring back the confirmation screen on the GPS. If you're doing this for the first time, they'll give you this, and depending on which series you completed, they'll give you a pin. So last year, those of people who finished last year got themselves this pin right here. Now for those of you who completed last year and are going to finish this year's series, you'll get this pin. Or those of you who haven't been here last year are going to complete this one, you'll get this one. And for those of you who are doing it paperless with the chirp, you'll get on top of the patch and the pin, you also get a little an extra pin there just for incentive for that. So depending on what you're doing, you might end up with these mini pins this year. So we'll see you on the 24th.